Hi, I'm Penny Nance. I'm the CEO and President of Concerned Women for America. I got to tell you, I woke up this morning burdened and brokenhearted for my friends in Israel. My dear sweet friend Yael Eckstein, who works for the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, sent me a video this morning. It was waiting on me when I got up, and I watched it right away. And she detailed what it was like to be a mother living in the midst of the violence that is occurring on a day-to-day basis, the assault of terrorism that our friends in Israel are under right now. In a minute, I'm going to show you Yael's wonderful and important testimonial, but I want you first to understand, we must pray for Israel. We must support Israel. You know, the basis of what's happening right now has to do with the fact that there are lies being perpetrated and put forward by the leadership of the Palestinian Authority. They falsely have said that there's going to be changes to what's happening on the Temple Mount, and it has spurred this violence against Israeli citizens. Unfortunately, Christians and Jews can't even go to the Temple Mount, and that's not going to change. But right now, terrorists are attacking not just the West Bank, not just Jerusalem, but even little bedroom communities. Schools are closing. People at bus stops, teenagers, even a 14-year-old, my son's age, was knifed along with a 19-year-old. They're both in critical condition. A 15-year-old was stabbed to death. I just read that a 70-year-old woman was stabbed at a bus stop. This horrible violence has to end. And what we can do right now are two things. One, I need you to pray. Pray for Israel. Pray for peace in Israel. Apparently the streets of Jerusalem are deserted. People are afraid to come out. They're afraid to send their children to school. Pray for Israel right now. Pray for peace for Jerusalem. And secondly, I need you to communicate with our U.S. State Department and urge the U.S. government to stand with Israel. Concerned Women for America will stand with Israel, stand with us. And now, without further ado, here's the clip from my friend Yael Eckstein that greeted me this morning. Thank you and God bless you.
Shalom, my friends from here in Israel. I want to give you an update on the situation here in the Holy Land as we see terror striking more people and more cities. The terrorists are actually specifically targeting a lot of small cities throughout Israel that are normally quiet and family oriented, and that they always say, oh, terror will never strike us here. This is a quiet city. This isn't in the West Bank. It's not close to the Gaza Strip. It's not close to the border towns. Central Israel cities based on families and children with parks and schools on every street. And that is specifically where a lot of the terrorists are targeting in order to show the people of Israel that no one is safe. And so it's something that's become very personal to everyone, and I think especially mothers. It's something that we could really relate to. Every day when I drop off my daughter, my 3-year-old daughter at her kindergarten, the gates outside of her kindergarten are locked, the door going into the building is locked, and every single person who comes has to ring a bell, wait for them to come with a key. And the truth is, there's been a lot of discussions, very passionate, heated discussions of should we even send our daughters and our children to this kindergarten if there's no security guard outside, even though the gates are locked, even though the schools are locked. My second grader at school came home the other day and said, we were on lockdown today because there were some people that were suspected terrorists outside. So we all had to go inside, and they locked the gate, and the security guard didn't let them in, and we went into our classrooms and locked the door. And imagine what it's like for a mother knowing that their child is going through this without them, that they're exposed to the knowledge that there are terrorists that want to kill them simply because they're Jewish. That's it. That's the reason why. It's not in the West Bank. It's not in the Gaza Strip. There are no checkpoints around here. It's simply because they're Jewish, and it's something that every child and parent is exposed to. In fact, just now I was in a meeting, and one of the fellowship workers got a phone call from his son in a big building right outside Tel Aviv, and his son said, Dad, I'm terrified. I see 2 people that look very suspicious behind the building holding guns. Right away, he said, call the police. 5 minutes later, we got word that they were terrorists. The police were looking for them throughout Tel Aviv, and because of a fellowship employee's son who called up the police, they found these 2 terrorists who were on their way to committing an attack. We have another woman who works for the fellowship who was on her way home, and she was in the middle of a terror attack that she was the first one to perform life-saving first aid to a 15-year-old boy who was stabbed. And the doctors at the hospital said if it weren't for her performing that first aid, the boy who was stabbed would have died. He wouldn't have made it. Because of this fellowship employee on her way home, he lived. And then where did she go right after coming from a terror attack with blood all over her clothes from saving this boy's life? To pick up her child from kindergarten. That's where she went straight. To pick up her kid covered in blood after surviving a terror attack and saving someone's life. She went and picked up her kid to bring them home. That this is something personal. You don't see this on the news, but that's the goal of the terrorists, that every single person in Israel should live in fear because we're Jewish. And so I encourage you to stand with Israel and the Jewish people, especially now, and let your voice be heard that you stand with Israel as we fight terror, as we stand for the values that Americans and Israelis hold dear, the Judeo-Christian values of life, of freedom, of democracy. And together I pray that we will be able to overcome this horrible situation that's so close to home.